right, let's do this. Good evening and welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening, and we have another jam-packed episode, so why don't we jump right the fuck in, and here's where you can find us on the interwebs, if you're so inclined to that sort of thing. First place is our website, which is ahpod.com. It's AHHPOD.com. Most important part over there is our blog, which is being updated with more frequency than ever. I know Matt has updated with some things. I have some things in the works. Matt has another thing in the works. And you will find constant updates on our blog, again, at ahpod.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for Hometown Horror Podcast. You'll find us, or just search for America's Hometown Horror. Same thing. And you can also email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line. And also, I want to mention our two sponsors, the first of which is Horror Facts Magazine, a great resource for any horror fan. You can find them at horrorfacts.com. They have news, reviews, editorials, and lots of other horror podcasts, including ours. And last but certainly not least, we are now an affiliate of the First Name and Fright since 1979, Fangoria magazine. Head on over to shop.fangoria.com/hometownhorrorpod, or just use the code HometownHorrorPod at checkout for an exclusive 20% discount on any first-time magazine subscriptions or Fangoria merchandise. Go trick yourself out with some Fangoria merchandise and get yourself looking spooky and fresh. Last but certainly not least, if you want to support our show directly, you can buy tickets to the Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention, which will be held at Mayflower Brewing Company on October 28th of this year. You can head on over to inebriart.com. We're a part of Inebriart's podcast network. Go to their events page, go to October, and buy yourself some tickets for the Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention for 5 smackers, baby. Anywho, that's what I got to start off the top of this show, and now is as good of a time as any to introduce my fellow co-hosts, and we have everybody here tonight. Andrew, Kat, Matt, lady, gentlemen, hello!
Hello!
Howdy, partner.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Howdy, ho. How's it going, everybody?
We're doing. How are you doing?
Good.
Very good, very good. Speaking of Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention, Matt, we had another meeting for that last night.
Sure did.
Things are chugging along. Things are looking very exciting behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Can't really say a whole lot about what's going on, but what I can tell you is that you will be seeing more frequent updates on the social media pages for the Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention, Instagram and Facebook pages.
'Tis that time.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a Twitter page. I think there already is one, actually. Maybe there'll be more updates on that. Maybe there'll be a TikTok channel if you're on the TikTok people, which I know Andrew is. I know Kat very much is. I'm on there, not as extensively. Matt, do you have a TikTok?
No.
Okay, good for you, my friend.
I'm not about making
No
TikToks.
TikTok, no Twitter. I just deleted my Twitter.
Did you?
Like a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Okay.
I don't even go on Twitter because...
Dude, it just was making me fucking angry.
I have
was
to
like,
say,
dude, there's just
yeah.
so much fucking bullshit. I was like, yeah, no.
I really only, I have our Twitter page, or excuse me, our Instagram page linked to our Facebook page. I really haven't been using Twitter a lot at all. I know it's kind of
way too easy to yell at politicians.
I know,
Yeah,
and I know it's like I hate to like jump on the bandwagon of since Elon took over and all that stuff, but I feel like it's just not the same. It's different. It's weird. Like weird people are verified now, which is part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
But you have to be paid. You
got to pay for it
Right.
unless you have a certain.
But it's like,
yeah.
the whole point of the verification. Like personally, this wasn't why I left Twitter, but I agree that the verification thing was fucking. That whole change was dumb. Because it's like the whole point was that like you're verified so that we know that this is some celebrity or screenwriter or director or whatever, music, whoever.
It's real.
And it's real, and it's not just some fucking dipshit
Weirdo,
being like, yeah, and like I'm, Steven Seagal, and I fucking like hate
Yeah, you could just
this
create your
group of people,
own
and
thing.
it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just being like out of control.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That was dumb. But, like, I just kept going on, and I kept seeing, like, videos of people just killing people, and I was like, all right, I don't want to see this shit.
Really? That's like, I'd see.
Maybe my algorithm was fucked up, but,
Maybe
like,
like, what-
People killing people.
dude, nah, it was,
I
like,
see
getting out of
nothing,
control.
I mean.
Like, there was, like, always just,
Alright,
like,
I'm
awful,
ahead
like,
of-
school fight videos, and, like, people, like, it was just too much. Like, I'd look at it, like, first in the morning, and I was like, this, like, fucking already ruined my day.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do?
It's like, you know what I mean? I can go on Instagram and Facebook, and I don't see that shit.
Well,
Which
yeah.
they have dumb stuff too, but like Twitter, and it just like everyone's just it's so polarized. Like it's very much like one side versus the other for everything. So I was like, all right, I'm done.
I honestly think Twitter is one of the biggest things that just ruined America. I think everyone
Twitter is fucking lawless.
All
dude.
these absolute roaches, which was something that we laughed about in our group chat. Just got on Twitter, like the smallest minority of the minority got onto Twitter, and basically was just it's a way for them to have their voice and spread their awful opinions about whatever they want to spew their hatred about.
And it's not. I'm not even like one sided. It's just like either side.
No, neither am I.
I just can't stand.
I don't want to
hear
any of it.
Anything from
just
anyone.
shut the fuck up.
I know.
It's like I'm just trying to look at fucking people fall down and stuff.
Yeah, right.
I want to watch
I
funny
laugh at
videos.
stuff.
I don't want to watch people walking up to homeless people and shooting them in the head.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I
dude.
just want to watch. I want to watch.
And people were like, they're arguing like that he deserved. I'm like, dude, like,
What?
I'm done. Like, this is a
Okay.
fucking cesspool of just fucking pieces
really
of
is.
shit.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, enough about
Bozo
Twitter. So you might not see us
Dumbledore.
as active on Twitter, but again, if you want to see some updates about us and also the Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention, follow us on Instagram and Facebook and maybe TikTok. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, speaking of relevant news, so we have, as of this recording, we're recording this on June 6th. Next Friday, which will be the 16th, guys, we have The Blackening coming out, which I know you guys saw a trailer for
Yeah.
when you went to
Looked
go
pretty
see
funny.
Evil Dead Rise, right? So that's the next movie on the radar for horror movie fans. Also, actually, big week for movies next week. We got The Flash coming out. We got the new Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid
That
City,
does look very
which
good.
I really
Yeah.
want to see. I'm all about UFO stuff, and this seems like it's like a Roswell type thing. It looks pretty cool.
There's some VOD drops too.
Yeah. Are there? Do you, which ones? I didn't know about these.
Bo is Afraid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's one
Bobo
that I
is
definitely want to
Afraid.
check
That's
out.
I
Bobo.
think next, if not this weekend, next week.
Yeah. Yeah, so big week at the movies because, Asteroid City. Then we have Elemental, which is the new Pixar movie, The Blackening,
Pixar.
and The Flash.
Have you? All right, so you've seen the trailer for Elemental, right? Or like you know what it is?
I know what it is. I haven't seen the trailer.
It looks
for
like a remake of Osmond Jones.
Oh,
I would
really?
say it reminded me a lot of like, from the commercials that I've seen without seeing a trailer, it reminded me a lot of like Inside Out.
Okay.
Almost kind of like that.
I thought
Okay.
they just like the water guy. I was like, it's fucking Osmosis Jones.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
Chris Rock,
maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. But
which was filmed in Plymouth.
that's right about that. Speaking of recent horror movies, and one that I don't think any of us have seen yet, Andrew, you went to the movies last weekend, but opted not to see The Boogeyman.
I didn't actually end up going to the movie.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, but
No,
you did
dinner
see
ran long.
you did see the Mario movie.
No, I didn't watch.
Oh,
the
you
movie.
didn't see that either.
No.
Okay. The Boogeyman, despite what
disappointed,
our reservations about the Boogeyman, it did scare up $20 million worldwide over its first weekend. So people still have a hankering for Stephen King movies, and I know you guys have said that you've seen a lot of bad reviews for this.
I have.
I feel like all the reviews that I've seen have been like, okay. And some of the more respected outlets that I read, I've seen them say that like it's
Just a
very
PG-13.
jump scary. Like,
Yeah.
but some of the jump scares are actually kind of scary. So
I like PG-13 scary movies.
I definitely
We
want
know.
to see that. We are very much yes.
I like them.
Yeah. But Boogeyman made $12.3 million in the United States and $20 million worldwide.
What was the budget?
Reported budget for this was $35 million.
okay.
So well on its way to
That's
making
not
its
bad
money
at all.
back.
That's not bad. At all.
It means it has to reach roughly $100 million to hit the point of profitability. Originally scheduled to go straight to streaming, but seems like that was
Another one.
another one. Yeah.
Another one.
Well, this one apparently tested well enough to be able to go into theaters.
Another one.
Another one, baby.
Don't you think the budget of the movie should include advertising and all that shit?
I'm sure it does.
It does.
Well, then why
Yeah.
does it have to make $100 million for profitability if it costs $35 million?
Because if it costs $35 million to... Oh, actually, that's a good point. Because if it costs $35
So they
million
obviously don't include
to
that
make...
into- Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe the studios need to see a certain percentage of
Percentages
profit
and-
to consider it "quote-unquote" profitable.
Because they want to
Profitable.
pad their fat cat pockets.
Well, wait, how is
Pay
that?
your writers, bitch.
They
Yeah.
made 100
Yeah.
and it cost 35.
No, they're saying that the movie was budgeted. The budget for the movie was $35 million.
Yeah.
For it to be considered profitable, it needs to make $100 million.
Well, I think you want to make at least 100% of what you spent on.
Yeah.
it
It's two
to
times
get that.
what you spent.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I think that's a wild.
very
Regardless, it
profitable.
just seems weird. That's like a fucking.
But $35 million, like in terms of movie budget, is pretty fucking small.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very low.
Which I would argue most of that budget probably went to advertising and the creature design. And maybe Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets. And, I mean, there's
Stephen
actually...
King probably got something decent now. Didn't
no,
he?
I
He
don't
sells
think
his
so.
short stories for $1.
Yeah, real cheap.
Really?
And honestly, like, if you were to
Good for him.
read this short story...
Maybe that's why most
fucking
of them
scary
suck.
as
It's
fuck.
awesome.
That's
It's
why most of
honestly
them
one of
suck.
his best
Yeah,
short
it's
stories.
$1.
But you can't make a movie out of it.
Dude, it's
you
like
have
7
to,
pages
You have to
long.
expand
Well,
it.
it's a
And I actually,
prequel.
so
It's a
I
prequel,
will say, I did
essentially, right?
reread it
It's like
last
a therapy
week.
visit.
Pretty much, yeah. So the story is it's a guy walking into a therapist's office telling this story of how he believes he's being haunted by this boogeyman and how it has had an effect on his life. I don't want to spoil the story, but there's a huge twist ending. It's awesome. It's really, really good, really creepy. And I actually listened. So the guy that directed The Boogeyman, his name is Rob Savage. I think I talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. He directed Host on Shudder, that Zoom horror movie
Yep.
that was big during the pandemic, and then
Right.
Dash
Dash
Cam.
Cam.
So he, based on the success of those two movies, got to direct a Stephen King adaptation. I listened to him on the Kingcast on the Fangoria podcast network. And he was saying that he couldn't really talk too much about it because it was still in talks. But if this movie does well enough, he gave this disclaimer, if the movie does well enough, his dream Stephen King adaptation that he's given a pitch for and has written a draft for is The Langoliers,
Okay.
which has a terrible TV movie adaptation.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's
that.
like,
But it's a very weird and creepy Stephen King story that I think could be done in a different way. So, I don't know. I hope that that movie does well so we can see an adaptation of The Langoliers. It's actually pretty good. But anyway, I digress. Big piece of news here, guys. I feel like this might have come out last week and I might have missed it in the news. But
I would say over the
no
weekend.
surprise here that the news broke over the weekend. I have this on May 31st. Terrifier 3 is moving forward with a quote-unquote much bigger budget, which I
Yeah.
say, hell fucking yeah.
Yeah, it's already in production.
Yeah, I can't wait. Let's see. Terrifier 2 raked in over $15 million off the back of a $250,000 budget last year. Two things that were immediately certain. We'd definitely be getting a Terrifier 3, and director Damien Leone was all but guaranteed to snag a bigger budget this time around. I'm reading this from the Fangoria article written by Scott Wampler, who is one of the hosts of the Kingcast and the Fangoria podcast network. So,
I really
pretty
hope
awesome to see. I hope they don't go too big with this. But
Well,
a bigger budget
no,
would
no,
be
no.
cool, you know?
I think they'll get a bigger budget, but it's still going to remain independent because there's zero chance that Damien Leone is going to want to dumb down anything that he's done already.
Yeah.
He's a special effects arguably does the best special effects in horror now, practically.
Right.
And I don't think he would ever settle to be like fucking painted as to be sugar coated or anything.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I fucking really hope he trademarks this character and gets the rights to it and doesn't let any, because I've heard that he only wants to do this one and then that's it.
On that, did you hear that Art the Clown appears in the new Pete Davidson series on Peacock?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess he actually is in it for like a split second.
That's interesting.
Bupkis?
Bupkis, it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah. Like, it's a weird cast. Like, I hate Pete Davidson. Can't stand him. But, like, Joe Pesci's in it. There's a bunch of actually good actors and actors.
I guess it's a pretty fucking good show.
I haven't really read too much about it, but I remember seeing an article about it on Bloody Disgusting saying Art the Clown appears in the trailer for Bupkis.
Yeah.
Which, like, Peacock sucks as a streaming service. So I'm like, I don't know. But if Art the Clown's in it, maybe it's worth a visit. I don't know.
I don't think it's a horror show at all.
No, it's not.
But,
I think it's
yeah.
just he's in there
It's
for
about
like,
his
you know,
life, but
sharts and gargles. as
Sharks
they
and
say.
Gargs. But yeah, no, I'm hoping that he trademarks the franchise and the character so that it doesn't get Friday the 13th and fucking allowed to just have all these bullshit fucking
Yeah.
sequels made where they just suck and they just get
Ruin the
more
name.
watered down as they go.
Ruined.
Ruin the name.
And because dude, like, I was talking to my buddy Jeff today, Jeff Weber, shout out, and he texted me. He was like, "Hey, I'm watching Smile, and so far it's a lot better than I thought." I was like, "Yeah, dude, this movie actually snuck into my top 10. And he was like,
Surprised it took him that long to watch it.
Yeah, and he's a busy cat, but he was like, this almost feels like it's taking itself as seriously as an A24 movie. And I was like, there's a funny thing that's happening with horror right now where you have your like A24 kind of thing where you have movies that are kind of reminiscent to the 60s and the 70s that are being taken very seriously. They're played as dramas that are just about something scary. But on the other hand, you're also, as of just as recent as last summer, getting these like super hardcore gore movies with like Terrifier 2, the fucking Winnie the Pooh movie, Evil Dead Rise, and like dude, these are getting Outwaters, like these wide release like turbo violent movies. And I was like, so you get you're what you're getting is this contrast of like super seriously taken, almost art housey movies, exactly like you have Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Omen, and Suspiria, Hereditary. But I mean, just from like back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And then you have your '80s splatter, fucking your Maniacs and your Friday the 13th, The Burning, and Reanimator, like all these like extreme high gore 80s movies. So now we have this kind of same thing, like this almost this transition that mirrors exactly what the fuck happened in the 70s to the 80s, and we're stepping away from that like Conjuring and Insidious Blumhouse kind of thing and getting back into like independent, just people are making movies and being and the point is that this is extremely good for horror.
Yeah.
We're getting back into its roots and its grittiness, and people are like not afraid to fucking push boundaries anymore. Because there was a period where people were like, we can't do violent things. There's too much going on. And now I think the real world is so fucked up and violent anyway. It's like, well, we might as well just go fucking balls in the
I feel
wall
like you got to
again.
thank the pandemic for a lot of this.
Yeah,
and
that's
movie
true
theaters
too.
Getting fucked over.
Yeah.
And having they're like, we need to like figure this out. And then you also have these options for the streaming services. So it's really like pretty much if you have a You really don't need a very big budget. You can make a fucking movie.
That was the thing, and like, if there's anything to thank streaming services for, it's being able to be like, well, there's no need to worry about an R rating.
Yeah,
you can do whatever you want. You
That's
can watch
true.
anything you want at your house, so you can get away with all that shit. But then they realize, well, why don't we test these unrated movies in the theaters? Let's see how they do. Let's see how a 2.5-hour Terrifier 2 does.
fucking slays.
What did it do, dude? It fucking what? I don't know, dude. Umpteenth fucking tripled its percentage, and you know what I mean. So it just
like same thing with
like it just like was
Outwaters,
like
That was
yeah,
pretty
it's
good.
like just this insane
Destroyed.
profit that it made. So
I have those numbers, by the way. I'll find them. Hold on one second.
but it just everything that it did, like that. This whole transition it's super interesting to look at, especially as much as I've always appreciated horror history, how it's played out and how it's reflected exactly what's happening in the world at the time that it was happening. So to look at it now where there's so much violence in America all the time, and to just see literally we're just going back to having violent American horror movies
Could
again.
you imagine 10
it's
years
fucking
ago
unbelievable,
having
dude.
Terrifier 2 be available in theaters 10 years ago? Absolutely not.
People would have been rocked. They would have bombed.
Yeah.
But then you look at like 2004, 2005, just post 9/11, and you have Saw and Hostel. And they're the two most popular fucking horror movies to come out in fucking 20 years.
yeah.
So it's extremely, it just goes to show people love fucking violent movies when they're tired of watching the fucking news.
It's a great call and a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also kind of too when Trump came in, everyone's like, violence?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
but it's just, I was having fun, like, having that conversation with Jeff today.
This is very interesting.
Yeah.
So
Good
Terrifier,
point. Very good point.
Terrifier 2, by the way, was made for $250,000, cleared $15 million worldwide at the box office, over $10 million in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, huge return, whatever that percentage is. I'm not good at math, never have been. That's why I
It's
write
like
words and say words on a
750%.
microphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, last but not least here, while we're talking Terrifier, did you guys hear that the original Terrifier is being re-released in theaters this summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, apparently coming to over 700 theaters on starting on July
next month,
19th of this summer under Dread, which is a horror label under Epic Pictures and a sister company to Dread Central, which is a horror website that I read all the time. So maybe we can go see the original Terrifier in
I think we should in
theaters.
I'd be
Boost
down.
those numbers up.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, you know what? This is a family theater, okay? Watch what you're doing here. Elaine. Elaine. That's what it was. Get my Seinfeld. I can't quote
Is that the one they
Seinfeld
just
like
all
you.
can't get to the theater on
So it's the
time?
one where Lloyd Braun, they're trying to convince him that he's not crazy, and Kramer eats the hot dog. It's been on the hot dog thing for like 10 years, and Jerry's wearing the big glasses.
Oh, I'm thinking
and
of a
Elaine
different one.
loses her button.
They're all chewing.
They're all chewing. That's the chewing gum.
That's the gum episode, yeah.
It is. It's just
I'm
a great
thinking of the one
episode.
when they're all trying to go to the movies at like separate
like a
times
good
and all
chew.
meet there, and they just can't
Yes.
fucking make it happen.
Yes.
It's just like, look at this guy. He's got like a fucking looks like a.
That's the
bird.
Kramer. That's the Kramer movie phone episode. I
Yeah.
think, right?
No, that's a different one.
Different one? Oh, there's a lot of movie episodes in Seinfeld. Are you going to write your horror character Seinfeld
So
thing?
last night I had written about 2 pages of it, and then my computer shit up, and fucking everything got deleted.
Okay.
Oof.
Oh, God damn it.
Christ.
So,
So
what, it doesn't
no,
lie,
you,
by the
you
way?
didn't
Oh,
write it. Yeah,
you
I was
are
like, I
so
immediately was like,
full
so
of shit.
no, you didn't write it.
And
Like,
you guys, I had you all fooled, and I just was
No,
like,
no.
I can't. No, but it's
Yeah,
up here.
no.
It's here. It's stewing. It's stewing.
It needs to be
Let it
on,
simmer,
on
baby.
It
there.
needs to be vomited
Low
out
and
to
slow.
the world.
I
you can
can't.
speak to your phone. You know,
I can't knock
type
you too
the
hard
whole
because I haven't written anything in a few weeks either. So I can't talk. So anyway, that's what I got for news. Anybody watch anything cool over the last week? Matthew, Cathew, Andrew,
I can go first.
go for it.
So we didn't go see
Mario.
Mario movie. So I went to the bathroom and I was like, well, you pick a movie. So she picked The Woman in the Window, the Amy Adams movie on Netflix.
Oh yeah, actually, I always kind of wanted to see that.
It wasn't bad. It was pretty good. It was a good twist. I didn't really see it coming.
It essentially
Amy
struck
Adams
me as like a
essentially-
riff on like Rear Window, like the Hitchcock movie a little bit.
So one of the first clips is like a freeze frame from that movie.
Oh,
And as soon
okay.
as that came out, I was like, oh, Rear Window, and I was like, that kind of makes sense. Similar, yeah, I could see that. Good tie-in. It was interesting. She said it was pretty much straight up the book, so because she had read the book too.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So yeah, Amy Adams was good. She's like basically like the female version of like Tom Hanks now.
I
She's
like her as an
fucking
actress.
everything. It's like I feel like she's in like a billion different movies.
She is, yeah. But she's good. I
She's
feel like in
fine.
most things
Yeah,
that
she
she's
was
in.
really
Yeah.
good. What's her face was in it from Hannibal? Name Julianne Moore was
Oh,
in it. Gary
yeah, yeah.
Oldman
Yep.
was in it.
Gary Oldman's a great actor.
I love Gary Oldman.
Oh, yeah, he's one of the best.
It was solid. It's not a horror movie. I don't think it ever claimed to be. It's like a mystery
thriller. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was solid. No complaints with that movie. I watched the new Waco series, all 5 episodes. That was interesting.
With Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. I had seen the other ones
Yep.
way back when it was on like Paramount, before like Paramount was like a thing.
Yeah.
That was good. It was really good. Giovanni Ribisi was awesome in that.
Always is.
He's an underrated actor.
He's very underrated.
Yeah.
What else did I watch? I watched this movie called The Dead Center from 2018.
Okay.
Definitely a lower budget movie. I can't quote me on that, but it seemed like one. But it's basically this guy commits suicide in like a hotel room, and he suddenly, while no one's there, he wakes up in the morgue, has like amnesia, and wanders to like a psychiatric hospital, and he like doesn't figure out what it is, and it ends up turning into like this really like dark, like he keeps saying that I am the bringer of death. And it ends up like it's really like kind of cosmic horror almost. I
Okay,
would say.
so don't spoil it for me.
I think
because
you would
that
like it.
sounds
I'm trying not to
interesting.
give a lot away.
Okay.
It's slow, and there's really no gore. I think mainly for their budget is what I'm guessing. But it's very interesting. It's kind of cosmic horror. Like, yeah. Like,
Okay.
I don't want to give anything away.
Don't.
So,
Yeah, don't then.
what else did I watched the new season of I Think You Should Leave. Show fucking rocks. I don't care what anybody
I gotta
says.
watch that.
I know a lot
love
of
that
people are
show.
talking about that. Yeah.
And then I watched All the President's Men, the like
Wow.
Watergate movie with
Sure.
who was in that? Robert
Yeah,
Redford
that's a
and
great movie.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
That was good.
Great movie.
Not a horror movie, but fantastic movie.
Yeah.
So
Well, hey, that's okay. We're open to everything
I
here.
think that was it. So I watched a lot because Sunday I didn't do anything. I just watched television. So.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, I can say that the lack of having time and the stressfulness of having a young daughter, I have not watched very much new horror lately, so I don't have very much to report there. What I can tell you, because I didn't want to come up empty here.
It ebbs and flows.
It ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I can give you a couple of horror podcast recommendations that I've been listening to a lot lately. because I feel like there's clearly an audience for that. And I'm in the car a lot doing estimates for work, and I'm listening to a lot of things that aren't the radio. If you like paranormal and spooky stuff, like ghost stories and cryptid stories, I would recommend checking out Spooked, which is a great podcast. They do their show in seasons, so it's not out like every week, but it's out like every few months. They bang out like 10 episodes. The host is really talented. He does like all the beats for it. It's like very music oriented too, but the stories are very well done.
Like the beats.
Very high quality audio. Like there's a lot of music involved.
Bring me the beat.
It's produced by a company called Snap Judgment. It's awesome. It's really, really good. That's like one you can like go back to the beginning and just start and just listen the whole way through because they're all good. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like listen to them in order. It's good. If there's one you don't like, you can skip it and go to the next one. But there's truly some creepy stories. So I really like that one a lot. And then since I was just talking about it, and I've been re-listening to a bunch of Stephen King stuff lately, Andrew. Actually, on top of that, audiobook recommendation, I did listen back to the full audiobook version of Night Shift when I re-listened to The Boogeyman. That's honestly, I think it's my favorite Stephen King short story collection. I absolutely love it.
Do you have any standouts? Quick top 3.
Boogeyman. Let me see. Hold on. Let me pull up the list real quick because I feel like I banged through them real quick. Hold on. I can tell you. Let me just stall here.
I think
real
I
quick.
can think of mine off the top of my head.
Boogeyman's great. Jerusalem's Lot is awesome. That is a prequel to Salem's Lot. Let's see. Gray Matter was adapted into an episode of Creepshow, the TV series. I really like that one a lot.
Was an episode 2 of Castle Rock like that, or I have no idea. I've never seen Jerusalem's Lot. Read Jerusalem's Lot. I mean, so.
And then also I like One for the Road because that one is that's a sequel to Salem's Lot, and Salem's Lot is my favorite Stephen King book. So that's what I got.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always like Sometimes They Come Back. That one I thought
that's a good one too.
I thought that was the scare. That story truly sent like a chill, like a shiver down my spine.
Yeah.
Like reading it. Like that actually, I got a physical reaction from it. I was like, whoa, fucking ghost kids.
I also like, even though it's corny as fuck, and the movie that was adapted from it is terrible. The Mangler, that one's actually kind of funny and gory.
Is the Ledge in there?
That's in Skeleton Crew.
Oh.
Yeah, so Skeleton Crew is actually really good too, because Skeleton Crew has The Mist.
It's got a banger in it.
Cain Rose Up, Here There Be Tigers. That's a really good one too, actually. I got to go back and reread that one. But anyway, so I re-listened to, even though I've read Night Shift, I listened to all the stories again via audiobook version, and I also have been listening a lot, and I mentioned this before, to the Kingcast on the Fangoria Podcast Network, which is hosted by two guys. Essentially every week they get somebody famous to come on and talk about one particular Stephen King story. And they talk about the story, they talk about any adaptations that have been out there. So it's a really good podcast if you like Stephen King stuff. And I've found myself listening to it more and more lately, which has kind of led me to listen to more and more Stephen King audiobooks. Like I said, I just read...
You get the bug.
Yeah, I just read Revival. I'm in the middle of Doom a Key. I banged out Night Shift in like 1 day's worth of driving. So, yeah, that's what I got.
That is nice because you can read a lot more books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually
sitting there reading the fucking book.
else.
Get it out of my face. I don't want to look at this thing.
Oh my god, you're just the worst. So anyway, that's what I got.
Okay.
Next week, I will come back with some movies or some TV shows. I promise. I've just time is of the essence, and I don't have a lot of it. So, Kat?
I watched an entire season of Barbecue Showdown on Netflix.
Yeah, I know. I watched it with you.
So
yes.
you're gonna make
it was
some
awesome.
good stuff for us.
Oh
then?
yeah. I got tons of ideas. I am so
As long as you have
excited.
ideas.
Oh yeah.
This is a good watch.
The show's awesome actually, and it's very, with the grill that we just got at the beginning of this spring. It's necessary to learn how to cook some different things.
I'm very inspired now to cook a lot.
Because
so excited.
You can't watch all horror all the time, guys.
No. Sometimes
But
you
it's a good show.
It's
That's a good
watch
show.
food. Be eaten.
If I'm not watching horror stuff, I'm watching food TV or cooking TV.
A whole hog.
I mean, we were gonna build a cinder block pit, but we might just build a fire pit and a whole hog in the backyard.
Yeah, we're gonna totally do that.
Yeah.
Seems rather
it's
unnecessary.
a whole day.
How many times are you gonna be cooking?
Dude,
pig?
It's a whole.
That's a
It's
lot,
a 24-hour.
man.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
It's a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge
I can
project.
imagine.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys ever had whole hog barbecue before?
I've had a pig roast.
I had it one time.
Never been to a
It was
pig roast.
excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
It's unbelievable.
I want to eat the
dude.
brains.
Yeah.
We did it on a. I did it on a. There's
The head cheese.
there's
Eat
no
the
there's no
eyeball.
How about
brains.
the hoof?
There's no brains. There's eyeballs.
You can eat the eyeballs.
Yeah.
You need the
Pigs
eyeballs.
don't have brains.
So we got it. I went to a
Contrary to popular belief.
Pigs don't have brains.
I went to a bachelor party
There's
in
a
the
pig wearing a
in the
Richard Nixon
Poconos with 15 other guys, and we ordered a whole hog barbecue on the first night that we got there.
Yeah, you did.
They had an
And
all-you-can-eat fucking buffet.
a whole bunch of
hogs.
hogs.
So they delivered it. They delivered the piggy and dropped it off on the deck.
That they did on the
And
deck. On the deck.
15 dudes, you already got enough hogs.
So I volunteered to help cut this bad boy up.
Oh, God.
Nice.
Yeah,
That was very good. Very
Mike
good.
Lots of high
helped.
five.
Mike helped cut that bad boy up.
No,
I couldn't get anybody to eat
Yeah.
the eyes. Couldn't get anybody to eat the eyes.
Dude,
But it was
you'd have to put a gun
very,
to my fucking
Yeah, no
head.
thanks.
very tasty.
There's the thing. How much would it? How much money would
Put
it
a
cost?
gun.
me?
Oh,
How much
I'll
would
tell
it
you
cost
what.
to eat roast pig eyes?
How long do you think it took? 15.
Less
That thing
than-
was
Or
fucking-
More or less.
Absolutely, that's a more or less.
Greater
more
or less than.
Mike.
Greater or less than. I would say, how long do you think it took 15 guys to eat one whole pig? It was like
And also,
less
the
than an hour.
15 guys are watching you eat the 2 eyeballs.
Makes
it even worse.
Or suck the penis.
Wow.
Save
Or they're
15 guys.
watching you suck.
You said suck the penis.
Yeah, you made it real.
Say,
Yeah, that adds like a whole new
Spank the
element to it. Suck the
we didn't
penis,
say
dude.
whose penis.
There was no
Exciting.
penis. There was no penis to be blown.
Hog balls.
Anyway,
It was a
so,
girl pig.
yeah, whole hog barbecue. Recommended. Anything else besides the Great American Barbecue Showdown? No. All right.
No.
Matthew.
Speaking of
I'm gonna piggyback off your podcast.
Piggyback, nice. I like
recommendations.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah,
Very
Oink,
nice.
oink.
I didn't even.
You didn't
Yeah,
mean
you
to
know
say
what?
that.
You know what? I did mean to say it. I didn't. But the Evolution of Horror podcast with Mike Munzer is an extremely fucking good podcast.
All right.
Much like the one you were talking about, how it kind of comes out in seasons.
Okay.
What he does is, and it's British, which just makes it that much more fun to listen to.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's always him. He always has a guest, and they're always some sort of horror historian or other podcaster about horror. They know what the fuck they're talking about.
That's
And they're always British for the most part. But
Sounds
they just
right.
dude, the euphemisms are fucking good. Dude, I crack up. But so what he does is the way he sets it up is like he picks like a subgenre, and he starts from the earliest movie of that subgenre and goes down. Usually it's 2 movies a podcast. It's usually about a 2-hour episode, and they go into each movie separately.
Jesus.
Dude, real good fucking show. Right now, his season this year is Home Invasion. So we're in the early to mid 70s. They just did Clockwork Orange and Last House on the Left, which was why that kind of pushed me. I was like, all right, yeah, that's a good idea to do for my write-up. And then this week, they just put out... one of the movies is called The Shout. It's 2 British movies that I'd never heard of. One of them is called The Shout, and the other one was called Fright. Both of which sounded pretty interesting. So just that's the other thing. He's got a lot of kind of deep cut stuff. Foreign, doesn't shy away from anything that's too brutal. He did a whole Body and Mind series that had body horror and psychological horror kind of coinciding with each other. Did a zombie series, vampires, alien series, a cult series. He did a serial killer series. So it's just he's covered a whole bunch of stuff, and he's just super intelligent and just pleasant to listen to. So I definitely recommend that. That's a good one. That'll carry you over for a little while because they're long episodes.
I just subscribed, and there is a deep catalog here. This
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
real good. Super knowledgeable, and the people he has come on, they're talking about those movies because they know everything about those movies in particular.
Just saw that he has a combined Doctor Sleep and Midnight Mass episode.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to the.
There's a
fuck
lot,
out of
dude.
that.
Yeah,
Wow.
trust me. It's a really good one.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites outside of Colors of the Dark.
Yeah, that's obviously a good one too. I feel like I've talked about that a lot.
I only have one watch. Just like you were saying, I also have a baby daughter, so my watch list was a little scarce. But Mother's Day, 1980, fucking absolute maniac film. This is if you guys watched the Joe Bob Briggs show on Shudder, this has been on that. It's definitely up that alley of just like chaotic fucking like B slop horror. Basically, it's about these two backwood fucking hick brothers who basically kidnap, brutalize, and kill women for their mother's pleasure. And it is just like it actually is kind of like a black comedy in the terms of it just being so dark and like ridiculous that you have to kind of laugh because you're like, oh my god. And it's like the lines in it are just fucking hysterical. Like the dialogue is out of control.
That was like, I was scrolling through movies and I watched like a random trailer for like some like 70s movie. And like one of the lines in the movie was like, "What's up, you fucking dildos?" And I just died laughing. I was like, I should probably watch this movie.
The mother in this movie is like been like in so many comedic roles back in the day. Beatrice Pons. But yeah, no, it's a wild movie. It's on Tubi. I think it's on Shudder because Bill Bob did his show on it. Or Joe Bob. Joe Bob Briggs.
Billy Bob.
Joseph Robert. Yep.
So yeah, but I did Mother's Day. That was last Saturday, and I was like, all right, I'm tuning in. I was gonna watch Inside, the French extreme movie about the woman that tries to cut the baby out of the woman's stomach. And
Oh my god!
I was like, I was eating, and I was like,
that's a bit much.
Immediately, it's like a blood fest. I was like,
Nope.
nah. And I was eating like a roast beef sub. I was like, yeah, don't. Just watch something else. Yeah. I was like, I'll come back to that one later. I was like, this is really gamey roast beef. I was like, I don't really want to watch
now
that.
I don't like this anymore.
Tell me about your sandwich.
Roast beef.
It was dude, Brothers roast beef. I got a roast beef through a sub. It was good.
Pretty good.
You're a fan of the three-ways.
Dude.
Roast beef three-ways, I mean. Well, because the time we went up to go see the Outwaters, you went to that roast beef place.
What, barbecue, mayonnaise,
dude,
and mustard?
Cheese.
No, it's roast beef, cheese, mayonnaise, and then like this like specific like
James River
barbecue sauce.
Oh, is that
Is this Brothers in Kingston?
Yeah. So what I get a sub because I'll have half and then I can save half. Mm-hmm. The only thing that sucks is you got to eat it cold. So like after like you save that half, because I'm not going to heat it back up with like all the shit on it.
You have incredible self-control. I could never just eat half.
Oh, dude, I've eaten the whole thing before, but
it's a fucking. Those are big boys.
They're big boys.
A drive-through there?
I think so, but I just call it and I pick it up.
Yeah.
But I get that as a sub. If I'm getting a sub, I get it with pickles and onions. Mm-hmm. But if I'm getting like the three-way like with the onion roll, I just do because that's too much. Like, if you have it on a sub, you have a vessel.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can carry all the soldiers, but if you have it on the onion roll, you're fucking.
I want
Plus, you can always
turbulent. Yeah.
You can always add if you have a sub. You can always, if you're gonna reheat it, you can always, or like even if you don't want to reheat it, you can add mayonnaise and.
If you're not from Massachusetts, there's like regions of like food. Where we are down on the South Shore, we have bar pizza, that's delicious. It's the best. It's like crispy like cheese, burnt laced
edges,
rust. Yeah,
give me that
insane.
shit.
But up on the North Shore, Massachusetts, they have hundreds of fucking places that serve these just incredibly tender, thin sliced, delicious roast beef sandwiches.
It's like what Arby's wishes it was.
It's Arby's if it was like mom and pop and it fucking rocked.
Yeah. And all you have to taste is Arby's. If you like Arby's, you'd love these places.
Yeah.
Most of those places, by the way, also serve like awesome fried clams too.
Yeah, they're mostly Greek owned, so they got like Greek pizza. Yeah, so
I was gonna say this is about the only use I have as a South Shore kid for the North Shore for anything is some of the food up there.
Throwing daggers.
Fuck the North Shore. Anywho, but my go-to roast beef sandwich, I just do cheese, sliced onion, horseradish, and on an onion roll.
Some people do like the horseradish.
That's mine. I love.
Yeah, you gotta get the onion roll.
If it's not an onion roll, I'm not interested.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, but the sub sometimes I'm like I was coming from a gig, I was hungry, I hadn't eaten anything all day. and I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to eat this until Layla goes to bed. And then I'm going to put on a movie. And of course, I'm like, oh, I'll watch a fucking French movie about a lady killing a pregnant lady. I was like, the fuck was I thinking, dude? We got like 10 minutes into it. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, yeah, no. I was like, I'm going to come back to this one.
Cold, gamey roast beef.
Yikes.
And then me and Sarah watched the first episode of Succession last night. We want to like start getting back into watching a show that we both
Kat and I need a new show too. So maybe
Succession's good. We watched the first episode. It's funny and it's interesting. It's like it almost feels like it has like a Martin Scorsese businessy vibe to it.
Okay.
Kind of. So.
All right. That's so that you have me there.
Yeah.
Some people, I know the series finale just aired, and I don't know anything about it, but some people are saying it's the best TV show of all time.
I've had about a dozen friends be like, dude. Including my parents, they're like, you have to watch this show. It's
my parents love it. I feel like a lot of people's parents love it.
Brian Cox is in it.
Yeah,
so.
he's great.
That's all I got, though.
I hear the acting is a highlight, I'd say. But, I was going to say, because I know you were talking about Mother's Day, I can't wait to watch all kinds of Father's Day horror movies. I can watch Creepshow. I can watch The Stepfather again. We should cover something Father's Day. 'Cause, my first Father's Day. I'm looking forward to some Father's Day horror, so... Maybe there's something else in the pantheon that we haven't covered yet that we can do
weird.
in a couple weeks. Yeah, we'll see.
Weird Father's Day.
Anyway, guys, anything else of note before we jump into tonight's film with a capital F? Film.
With a capital F.
No. Yay, nay, speak now or forever hold your peace.
What?
No, we're good?
Hold
all right.
peace.
I gotta pee.
We're moving
I do
on.
have to also pee.
Hey, before before we pee, why don't we take a quick 90-second break for a word from our sponsors? We'll be right back.
It's official. The critics' decision is in.
Spooky World is spooktacular.
Enter the new black hole.
If you dare.
Or the new horror House of Wax. This year, don't miss the real Jason, Bobby Pickett, or Alice Cooper. Phone the 24-hour Spooky World hotline. 508-838-0200. That's 508-838-0200. Spooky World is just west of Boston and haunts every night from October 1st till November 1st. If you had the nerve, you'd phone 508-838-0200.
It's America's horror theme park, Spooky World.
Don't be scared. I'm the super sweet monster with the super sweet new cereal, Count Chocula.
Biffle, here's the super sweet new cereal, Frankenberry.
But I've got chocolate sweeties for monstrous chocolate flavor.
Well, I've got berry-flavored sweeties for monster strawberry flavor.
Count Chocula.
Frankenberry.
Hi.
Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
Sleepy flowers.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The new face of evil is going to scare you to death. Barrett's Haunted Mansion. It's killer this year. Then right next door to the Abington Ale House. Barrett's Haunted Mansion. Eat, drink, and be scary. Go to bhmansion.com.
And we're back, which means that we are on to tonight's film. And I say film with a capital F, because we are talking about...
I don't know what you mean by that.
Eraserhead, a 1977 film written and directed by the one, the only, David Lynch. And I could say Eraserhead is also called, a.k.a. the first in a series of full-length films where David Lynch is just fucking weird. Because this is a very strange movie. I've given up the term wild, but this is also a wild movie. I've given it up until tonight.
Why'd you give it up?
Because I feel like I said it a lot. I feel like I described things as wild a lot. Yeah.
So what was your
That must
substitute
have been wild.
for wild?
Strange, off-putting,
Benign.
Interesting.
interesting, faux pas-ish. I don't know. I'm just
Off the rails.
Off the rails. Weird. Like, I don't know. Anyway, we're talking Eraserhead, which was...
Tell me all the synonyms.
I'm surprised it's taken us this long to talk about David Lynch, because I feel like most of his movies are clearly horror in one sense, but they're also clearly other things in many other senses, which I feel like is a very vague description and a terrible description. But yeah, Eraserhead is his first feature-length film, which he wrote, directed, wrote some of the music for.
If you can call it that.
Yeah, I mean, it's having rewatched it last night with Kat, who watched it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the first time in about 10 years that I had seen it, and I forgot just what this movie entailed. And I was watching it, I was just like, wow. He's an interesting guy, David Lynch. All of his movies are about something. I think especially this one. Now, I don't know what that is. I can probably read you some things off Wikipedia or IMDb that might tell you what people think this movie is about.
I should have pulled some notes from my.
We can go through that, but
yeah, I have the Criterion collection Blu-ray. It's got all of the Criterion movies come with these fucking 75-page books.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
It's sick, but it's just the only time I have it in my possession is when I fucking pop a movie into the fucking TV. I'm not going to sit there and read a book while I watch a movie.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, Matt, since you picked this movie, I'm obviously going to defer to you to talk about this particular movie first, but I guess I have to ask, and Kat, Andrew, I think I know where you guys lie on this. Where are you guys, everybody, on David Lynch? Fans, not fans? I particularly am a fan of certain things of his. Do you have a favorite of his or nah? My personal favorite is Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I love Twin Peaks. A lot of people love Twin Peaks. I'm a fan of Mulholland Drive, which I think a lot of people consider to be his best movie and their favorite David Lynch movie, but I also really particularly like Lost Highway because Bill Pullman. That's a creepy movie. It's a very weird and creepy movie. So I think I like, but not necessarily love David Lynch. I don't even necessarily know that I love Twin Peaks. I very much like it, but
that show smells
very odd, very very strange. If you've never heard of Twin Peaks, it is essentially it's described as a dramatic soap opera with weird fiction and supernatural elements.
It's pretty spot on.
I would also call it a precursor to the X-Files in a lot of ways.
It is. I agree. I've always kind of found it as synonymous with X-Files.
Yeah. So I am the biggest X-Files nerd on this show. Love the X-Files. Yeah. So yeah, I like but don't love David Lynch. Matt, what about you? Because I know that you love this movie, right?
Yeah, no, I do like. I am a fan of this movie. Of his work, this is my favorite. I watched it at a pretty impressionable time. I was 16 or 17 the first time I watched it, and I had watched it back to back with Begotten. Do you know? Have you ever heard of Begotten?
No.
So there was
admittedly, I have
a movie that came out in 1990 called Begotten.
From Lynch?
No. 1989, and it was directed by Elias Merhige. I'm probably saying that wrong. I don't think he will ever listen and know. But basically, he was directing same thing, kind of like a lot of short films, music videos, this, that, and the other thing. But he put out a movie called Begotten that when I was a teenager, Begotten, and just a quick synopsis presented in a surreal, gory, and entirely visual manner. Begotten tells. Begotten.
No one can say that word anymore.
Tells of the death of religion, the abuse of nature by man, and a nihilistic outlook on what life ultimately is.
Sure.
So I was going through when I was a teenager. I really was getting into extreme movies. I was wanting to push the envelope as much as I could, and see all these movies that I could try to find. And this one, Begotten, was one of the ones that kept coming up that I haven't seen, but it looked super strange. Anytime you see black and white as a kid, you're kind of thrown off because you're oh, it's fucking old. But I had watched that, and that's an insanely bizarre movie. Super unsettling, uncomfortable, disgusting viewing experience with zero dialogue. Big time art house. But it also was like, you may also like Eraserhead. And I was like, all right, this looks fucking weird too.
Cool.
So I watched that, and at that point I was like, wow, this is one of the most intense movies I've ever seen. Like not just visually, but like the sound in this movie is fucking horrible.
I had that
dude.
down too. I think that's yeah.
Like there's parts in this movie, and I've seen this movie probably like I'd have to say at least 6, 7, 8 times.
Yep.
Where I'm like seriously sitting down, my phone's away, and I'm watching it because I feel like that's the kind of like David Lynch movies. If you're gonna watch them, you have any of his work, you have to just fucking watch it.
Yeah.
You can't really like fuck around. Like Twin Peaks, I've had a real hard time doing because it's very slow.
It's very slow.
But like Mulholland Drive is fucking phenomenal, and like you watch that, and if you give it the time, it's like you're blown away. I haven't seen Blue Velvet. It's just donating that time, knowing what you're getting into is tricky when you know what David Lynch does. But with Eraserhead, I had watched this a bunch of times, and just every time I always know, I'm like, all right, everything's away, and like I'm sitting there, and it's just like, dude, the sound design, and there's certain elements of it that are just so incredibly uncomfortable and strange. It's like a fucking fever dream, which is much like that other movie, Begotten, where it's just like this outrageous imagery that you're just presented, and like for seemingly no reason. But I wanted to pick this because I read that 101 Rolling Stones like countdown list.
Yeah, you shared that the other day. And
dude,
I haven't read the whole thing yet.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, like I was like, all right, here we go. Here's like fucking every James Wan movie ever made, but absolutely, there's not one. So
I'm not surprised by that because Rolling Stone's very artsy fartsy, and yeah. I typically have no use for Rolling Stone. I'm the typical Boston guy, especially since they had the marathon bomber on the cover, making me look like a rock star. I'm all set with them, to be honest. I used to subscribe. I don't anymore, but yeah. Sorry, continue.
Rolling Stone, you're fucking canceled.
Yeah, fuck you. Seriously.
But no, that list is sick. They did a good job. But
I'll go back and read it.
I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a horror countdown list, like at least from 100 to 1, that didn't include Eraserhead. And,
you mean you haven't seen a list that wasn't on Bravo that included this, right?
Well, yeah. But
I got you,
in terms of just like countdowns and like any sort of like movie list that's like disturbing movies, uncomfortable movies, this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, all right, why don't we do Eraserhead? And I was saying to them earlier, I was like, it was between this and one other movie that
you still can't remember?
I'm fucking gonna pull my hair out.
You'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. But I was like, let's do Eraserhead. I was like, it's accessible. You guys all have HBO Max or
Max now. Yeah,
and Maxwell.
Mock.
TJ Mock. So I was like, let's do that. It's not a long movie. I think it's an hour and a half.
Short
watch.
Yeah.
But it's something different. We started weird with
it's
June
different.
with the Return to Oz.
Yeah.
I was like, let's stay weird. Let's keep going weird. I considered about writing this like for the blog, but I was like, you know what? This is kind of just enough that I think we can all do this one and get through it.
I think it's a good point.
No one's going to be mad
Was
at
this
me.
like 1984 mixed with Rosemary's Baby? It's just like
it's 1977.
Well, 1984 the movie.
Oh,
mixed with Rosemary's Baby.
Dude, well that's the thing.
Just
so there's
weird
so
movie.
I want to let everyone go like round table because I have a lot of interesting stuff to say about this. In terms of what this movie may or may not be about. But I just wanted to go through like why I kind of like had the mindset to pick this movie. But yeah.
I would say, I mean, we've covered a lot of strange movies in this podcast, from like The Lighthouse to other very, very strange movies that I can't recall all at this time because we've done
a lot.
Return to Oz, by the way, was the 169th episode. Nice.
So this is the 170th?
Nice. This is 170 right here.
Should we do a celebration for the 175th?
Might be. I think when we get to 200.
200.
We're not doing one and three-quarter fucking century.
But, I mean, this might be the weirdest movie that we've covered so far. I mean, the most abstract and strange.
It is fucking
movie.
strange.
Yeah. But, I mean, I would say, Matt, you were talking about the sound in this movie. That was one of the things I had written down, like, rewatching it. like it's. I wouldn't even necessarily call it like ambient sound, but like the background noise and the sound that you hear when the main character's just walking around this hellish landscape. It's just so like fucking like out there and strange and weird and loud and quiet at the same time. And it's just Kat, atonal.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, which, if you don't know, Kat did her master's thesis on atonal music.
Well, it was the theme
Kind
of
of,
atonal
yeah.
music, but yeah.
Right.
I created
Which,
a space.
the
that was
definition-
based on atonal. So
Right.
I created like a restaurant that was like supposed to make comfortable, like opposite to like Dick's
Yeah.
Last Resort, but
Which-
also have like strobe light rooms and all these weird queasy and like projections on the wall of like eyeballs that are just kind of to like this crazy music.
Wow. That's fucked up.
It was pretty cool.
That was my thesis for my master's degree.
sick,
Yeah.
dude. Damn.
But so, like, atonal music, Catherine, I meant to ask, like,
Yeah.
so by definition is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, correct?
Oh yes, yeah.
So-
well, it's all dissonant, like
It's frequencies.
tones. Yeah.
I very much
Yeah.
thought of that watching this movie. And then I also thought of, so one of my favorite musical artists is 9 Inch Nails. And I thought specifically of the end of one of their most popular songs, Hurt, where essentially all of the guitars and the pianos just crescendo into this big thing at the very end. It sounded a lot like what was in this movie.
Yeah.
And they have a couple of ambient and all instrumental albums called Ghosts. There's like volumes 1 through 6. And all of that music sounds like what's in this movie. And it makes sense because they went on to work, or Trent Reznor went on to work with David Lynch on multiple things. So, especially Lost Highway. That was a big thing. So, I just thought of that. And it's just, I would not call this a scary movie. I would call it an unsettling movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's no booze.
yeah, I mean,
It was just like, ugh, ew.
Yeah.
Like, those
yeah,
kinda-
and I think
When
the
that
sound,
little baby died. That was fucked.
the sound has a lot to do with it.
that was gross.
Yeah, and there's some gross parts
Well-
and some weird shit, but yeah, that's I don't know. That
Yeah.
was my
there's,
2
there's
cents.
Was it a
content
baby?
that has to do. So Sarah
Double
was saying
baby.
this because she was watching this with me. She's like, "How can you watch this movie knowing that there's going to be some issue with this baby?"
Well, it's not a baby.
And I'm like, "It's not a baby."
It's like a
She's
dinosaur.
like, but it is a baby.
It
I'm like,
looks like a dinosaur.
it's in theory a baby, but it's the whole point is that it's not.
It's
a
essentially
fucking monster.
I think it's supposed to be a sperm.
It looks like fucking.
No, it's
Yeah,
supposed to
it
be.
does.
It looks like Bigfoot from.
I'm gonna explain what that whole situation is.
Whatever
No
it
matter
is.
what, it's sad and it's
General
brutal.
Akbar from fucking.
The sperms
Star
are when the
Wars.
lady's dancing in
Yes.
the radiator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so weird.
Yeah,
David
that's
Lynch with
very
his weird
strange.
dance numbers that he does in his things, because he does that in Twin Peaks too, right?
He does.
Plastic
Weird
Yeah.
fucking
face.
thing, and I don't
Which,
like it.
like, I thought, okay, so you don't like that stuff, that's fine. One of the coolest parts about season 2 of Yellow Jackets was when Christina Ricci, Misty, goes into the sensory
sensory
deprivation
tank.
tank,
Yeah.
Right.
and she had that is it essentially a scene from Twin Peaks where
That's-
she's
yeah.
talking to her bird Caligula in human form,
Yeah.
and she's this like dancing numbers and singing numbers, like that is a David Lynch 101 ripoff right there.
Smooch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this movie's fucked. Last thing I'll say, hell of a casting with Jack Nance. I mean, my God, what a weird looking guy. And
Is that his real hair?
He reminds me of
That's
what's
fucking
his,
sweet.
I think,
He's like
I think
Kramer.
so.
What's
he
his
looks like
face?
Kramer. Yeah.
But he looks like that guy. He's in Talladega Nights and in
Ricky Bobby.
Oh, John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
I think he
Really?
reminds me
Yeah.
of oh man, he's in Jacob's Ladder.
Oh,
Tim
Tim
Robbins?
Robbins, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see him
Oh,
doing
yeah,
this
yeah.
in a
Okay, now
yeah,
I
big,
now I can
tall,
see it.
lurchy
Yeah.
looking dude with big hair.
Okay, fair
Bird
enough.
face.
All right, so I know I've given my thoughts now too. Kat, do you want to go next? I know this is a first time viewing for you.
Yeah, it was weird. The first I was kind of half like Matt said before, like you can't be on your phone. You have to totally like be in this movie. And the first like couple of minutes, I was like looking at stuff on my phone, and I kind of looked up and I was like, wait a minute. Oh no, I can't. Like I need to not look at my phone because it was just so weird. And
It's
then I was
very
like,
visual.
Oh my
like
gosh.
you have
Yeah.
it's
There's
a
very
lot
little
of the
dialogue.
story is told just by imagery.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right. So I was kind of like, what did Matt pick this week? Because, like, okay. I was like, I had no idea. Like, I was like, wait, this is black and white? And I was like, what year is this? He's like, oh, it's good for a 1977 film. And I was like, 1970. So that must have been, like, remastered. I mean, it clearly did not look like... just the quality of it from streaming, I'm sure, is better than it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I watched it on Blu-ray, and it's crisp as hell.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still grainy as fuck.
Right.
Like, but one of the things is, like, you see certain scenes when, like, the pencil shavings all go in the air.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's, like, it's so crystal clear.
It is.
It's very cool. So that's probably from the transition of the film to being brought into new definition. Yeah,
I think it was, I mean, overall, like, I mean, what Mike said earlier, like, it's unsettling. Like, the entire, like, I liked, like, how Mike was talking about atonal things, whatever. Just, like, the sound effects of, like, they'd go on a light and you'd hear, like, the hum.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't be a hum. It would be, like, a different noise that wouldn't be what that would make.
It shouldn't
but it's
sound
also,
like that.
It shouldn't, and you're like, what? Or, like, when they were, like, sitting in the room and it was...
Put a pin in that thought about the way certain electrical things make certain sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then they're, like, sitting in the room and, like, the mom's asking, like, what he does. And he's kind of like, I'm on vacation, this, that, whatever. And then the girl all of a sudden is just like, yeah. And I was just like, okay, does this, like, because she's uncomfortable with this conversation that she's now doing this? And, like, the same with, like, the dining room and, like, the chicken thing. And, like, the mom is just
the dad just, like,
he's just sitting there.
Staring at him, like, smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, cut up these chickens,
and then blood just
are, like,
jumps out of
big.
it.
Like, and I was like,
do I just carve this like a regular chicken?
Yeah,
I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
basically,
like, is that? That's a small little Cornish hen, I guess. I don't know what the hell that was, but I was just like,
it starts bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, they're just weird tics about certain people that, like, all of a sudden they just do weird things, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what?
I have such a fucking satisfying explanation.
Okay.
For the sounds and stuff.
Well, everything. Once it could be theory, but I leaned all the way into it, and now every time I watch it, I accept that as the reality for this movie.
Okay.
Do you want to go through it now? Or you want to
no, wait. I want to let Andrew talk because he hadn't seen it before either.
Before Andrew goes, I just want to say, like, I looked at Kat last night, and she was looking at me being like, what is this?
Yeah. Even at the end, I was like, it's over? Like, it's the whole,
I said to her, it's so impeccably shot, and it looks so incredible for a movie that was made in 1977 for someone that was his first
it's
movie.
Wild.
I mean, it's shot in all black and white, but it looks incredible. Everything about it, like the sets, the physical effects, the creature effects, like all the special effects are unbelievable. It honestly, like, leaps and like, you're able to look at this and see, like, why David Lynch was kind of held as, like, this acclaimed filmmaker even from the beginning, and he was given all these projects, right? Which I mean to say, so, like, look at this trajectory of filmmaking, right? So first feature was Eraserhead, into The Elephant Man, into Dune, which, say what you will about that movie. I know Andrew,
movie sucks. Elephant Man I actually like.
Yep. Into Blue Velvet, which and then into Wild at Heart, which I
Dennis
forgot
Hopper,
about with
phenomenal.
Nicolas Cage. That's a great movie. I actually really like that movie a lot. Then he did the Twin Peaks movie, Fire Walk with Me, Lost Highway.
Entirely the show, right?
The show, all the show, like two revivals of the show.
Did we watch that?
No, you have not seen it. We should watch it, though. The Straight Story, never seen that. Then Mulholland Drive, and his last movie in 2006, Inland Empire, which I've never seen. So you can't accuse him of making too many movies, but, you know, he's easily seen, like, an upward trajectory in his filmmaking style and skill. So, I don't know. You can see where it started with Eraserhead was my point in saying that. Yeah. It's a really cool movie to look at, regardless of what you think about it. If you have no idea what the fuck's going on, or if you don't like what's going on, it's still beautiful to look at.
Well, you're just wondering what's going on in the entire time.
Yeah.
You're just like,
well, so Sarah kept saying, she's like, is there a fucking plot to this movie?
Right.
I'm like, yes. And she's like, what is it? I'm like, it's this guy. He's dealing with having a kid with this shitty girl and that he's now stuck with, and he's got a dog shit job, and like everything sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just him going through it and having a mental fucking breakdown. Like, it's pretty much what it is.
It's also the type of movie, before we go to Andrew here, that, like, there's 5 characters and only 2 of them have names. Henry, Mary, and then the other characters named the beautiful girl across the hall, the lady in the radiator, and the man in the planet. That's essentially it. Well, the dad, I guess. Yeah, that's another one. What's listed here and what I'm seeing, but I don't know.
The man in the planet is definitely important as well. So.
I'm sure. I can't wait to hear the explanation. For Andrew, go ahead.
So, 24 hours out from watching this movie, I don't know. I still don't.
And you had never seen this before?
Never seen it.
I'm actually amazed by that. I don't mean to cut you off because I know how much you love weird movies.
As well.
It's been. I've crossed paths with it many times and never actually watched it. So when Matt said it, I was like, okay, good. Now I have to watch this movie. I wanted to watch it. And I still don't know if I love this movie, hate this movie, like this movie. I have no fucking clue. I have to watch this movie again because it was so fucking weird. And I could be overthinking what I think the movie is about. Because, well, on the surface, to me, like a very basic surface, he's a fucking alien that got sent down by the man in the planet down to Earth because he just comes this weird fucking opening sequence with there's like stars and
that was bizarre.
And then he just shows up in a tunnel and he steps in mud like he's never walked on anything before. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's deal? His hair
Even the way he's walking like around,
he walks like a fucking
the
weirdo.
hills and down the hills. He's just like, you know.
And then he gets into his apartment like he's never been there before, and this sexy lady, I mean, he's extremely awkward, just looks at him and basically is like, you want to fuck? And he's like, thank you, and then just like goes into his apartment, puts his stinky wet sock on top of the radiator. Reminded me of fucking Craig getting back to the shop and he'd take his wet boots off and put them on his fucking shoe warmer. And I'm like, oh good, the whole apartment smells like foot feta. Can you, not apartment, just the fucking shop.
Foot feta.
Like, I'm like, who is this weird guy? And then he goes over to that house and the people start having those weird like seizures, and I'm like, is he giving out like this fucking electromagnetic wave from his giant alien head and he doesn't even realize it? It's just very strange. And then also the fact that, I don't know, you impregnated this woman and she's like, I think it might not even be a human or whatever, and then she shows up at his apartment with this fucking alien weird creature, and he's just like cool with it, like, yeah, that's right, this is my baby. Oh, poor thing. Oh, you're sick, aren't you? Taking its temperature. I'm like, it's a fucking lizard. Like, what are you doing? Throw it out the window. Get rid of it.
Her mom starts to like try to make out with him too, like
it's
the corner.
Very weird.
Like,
even Kat, when we were watching it last night, had the opposite reaction to what I was thinking. That she'd be like, this movie's fucking gross. She was like, oh, like I feel bad for it. Like, oh, like he's trying to take care of it. Like you said that a couple of times, and I was like,
the alien's fault.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that too. It's actually like not his fault. Like not the baby's fault, like clearly.
It's not a baby.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Then the baby somehow gets like syphilis, and then it's just like.
Well, yeah, that was
supposed
gross.
to be based off a premature baby calf.
Okay.
That's what it's supposed to look like.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say there's a reason this
That's
movie
the idea
is
that he
described
got
as a surrealist body horror film.
I also thought maybe this was like a movie that was like out there for like pro-abortion, because if you should have an abortion, it would be with this.
David Lynch wrote this movie based on his fear of fatherhood.
Okay. That makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean,
what was the tree on the nightstand? The
dirt tree.
There's a dirt tree on the nightstand.
So,
I was like, why
also
is
the
that
weird
there?
stuff that just started growing out of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
The what?
Those things just started growing out of like like he was like staring into the abyss inside the radiator, and the plants growing. It's fucking. I did read an interesting quote from the guy that played the man in the planet, Jack Fisk, where he said, "I didn't really know what we were making this movie about, but he's like, I'm pretty sure after making it that it's about karma, and that the man in the planet is basically every time he pulls a lever, it's a reaction to it's a karma he's doing down there."
That's interesting.
I thought that was an interesting thought.
So
some sense.
All right, so Andrew, your thoughts are extremely interesting because they're very close to what one of the synopsises for the story is. So, when I had first seen the movie, I kind of read through a synopsis, which there's like a play-by-play of basically what happens. And then there's like an alternate synopsis that's kind of a representation for what could be a background story. Whether or not confirmed, I like leaning into it because I think it's fucking pretty spot on. This movie clearly takes place in somewhere like, it almost looks like Pittsburgh. kind of like a mill town.
Early 1900s, maybe?
Well, it's supposed to be taking place in its time of the 70s.
Really? That's in the 70s?
Post-World War II, where there was a nuclear bomb lit in America.
Okay.
So,
which, by the way, David Lynch from Montana. So,
okay.
Interesting.
And that nuclear bomb has killed off all of the wildlife animals. So, to your note of the weird chickens, he says all that we're eating these man-made chickens.
Interesting.
Except for dogs, by the way. Apparently.
Yeah. And so all their food is manufactured. It's not real.
They didn't.
No, there was a dog with all the puppies that were all...
Yeah, that was weird, too. That was like, I'm like, what is going on? At first I thought they were
8,000 puppies.
I was like, why are there so many rats on this dog?
The other thing is that they've all been... So this is supposed to be in the 70s. The bomb was in the 40s, so they've been suffering through almost 30 years of radioactive fallout.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And it's affecting their minds. And basically, like, for lack of a better term... he's supposed to kind of have like almost like autistic traits where he's unable to kind of like certain parts of his communication are kind of they're different. They're not he doesn't like take reception like
he's just
you know what I mean like when you
Yep.
see him talking to the lady across the hall he's kind of awkward. He like doesn't you know what I mean he doesn't like take it like well.
He's like not looking her in the eyes.
And like
right.
And like but like he just kind of there's something about him that it's just like he's off. Like there's something and it's like his walking, everything. He's just kind of diluted.
That makes total sense.
With all this radiation poisoning that he's gone through. And then you have where they're living in a society basically where having a child is like frowned upon. And that's why the mom's like, what are you doing? Like, but she's also like, but yearning for being able to have a child.
That's
so that's why she's making
out
with them
like that,
and like kind of like coming on to him because she's like, clearly you don't give a shit. And the other thing is like that, they have this baby that is just like a mutant monster. And in the meantime, he's going through hallucinations. He's seeing things that aren't there. None of their trees are alive, so that's why they keep these like just like dead plants. They're like, I don't know, we can probably harvest
his head
something.
falls off and the fucking the kid picks it up and he goes to like the pawn shop
and they turn him into
erasers.
And erasers.
Yeah,
that's why it's called Eraserhead.
What the fuck is going on? That
but that's his nightmare.
Wild. Yeah,
that's his nightmare. Yeah,
very strange.
Nightmare.
Yeah,
such a good nightmare too. Who the fuck thinks of that wild shit?
David Lynch.
Chicks. I was like, Jesus Christ.
But his whole thing is that he's living this awful life, and he's infatuated with the woman that lives in his heater. Now, when I said put a pin in what you said earlier about how everything sounds like it shouldn't sound the way it... Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad you remember
machines are making things that aren't making the sounds you think they would. It's because everything's running off of steam. There's no electricity. They have steam heaters.
They have the radiator.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that guy is controlling all of the steam that he's supposed to, and he's all fucked up because he's just constantly being burned by everything all the fucking time, and the radiation and this, that, and the other thing. And so basically, this is just a story of a guy in a post-apocalyptic world having a mutant baby. His wife doesn't want to deal with it. She dips. He's fucked up, and he's hallucinating because he's losing his mind because he can't sleep because his baby's crying all the time. He wants to leave and get out of this world. He falls in love with a woman that doesn't exist. He kills the baby, and he kills himself. That is Eraserhead by David Lynch.
All right, well, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
Well, holy moly. Yeah, that's...
Is that confirmed?
I feel like that just
theory,
blew my mind.
It's
pretty
too good to
not be
believe.
A theory. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I have to ask, did you come up with this theory? Or
No. This was on IMDb.
Okay,
Genius
all right.
came up with this.
All right.
That's a great... That seems...
That seems spot on to me.
And you're just waking up in the middle of it, like you have no, and there's no
believe
backstory. It's just a fucking.
You're dumped into it.
Well, see, that's the great thing about making a movie like that is because that's probably not even what it's about.
No,
and like you said, like what you said,
it's up for an interpretation.
So it's a no-brainer for a director.
Now, my idea is that if he's wrote this in fear of fatherhood. It's that he clearly had a fear. I think he had a fear of radiation.
Well, yeah.
Of some sort of issue like that, and or at least having a sick child.
Well, you grow up during the Cold War.
And that you can't take care of. You can't figure out how to take care of.
That makes sense.
So,
that can be
I mean,
he's not afraid of having
grew
a
up
kid.
in that time frame.
He's afraid of having a kid with no world to look forward to.
So David Lynch was born in 1946, which means that when he was like in his teens and 20s, he was in the 60s and 70s.
Cuban missiles. Crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
I have no place in pointing the finger which way he wanted to fucking put it, but that theory and that synopsis,
that makes
alternate
perfect sense.
Reality of the synopsis made a lot of sense, and I remember always watching the movie being like, this is so much more interesting now. But there's certain things in this movie that are insane. And
There's a lot of insane parts.
Well, certain things that I always picked up on that creep me out every time. One, it's when he goes to dinner at the girl's house. She has that weird freak out, and she starts brushing her hair.
Yeah,
the mom's brushing her hair, right?
It's super strange. No matter whether or not she's suffering from some sort of like uranium panic attack or what, there's that. There's the dad just sitting there and being like, well, how do you do? And just smiling at him. And it just does not fucking move. Yeah, and all he gives a shit about is eating his dinner, and he just will not eat it until everyone's sitting.
Also,
and I'm like, dude,
what about the weird granny in the kitchen?
Yeah,
she was the least weird out of
yeah.
all those.
That reminded
she didn't
me
have a
of
fucking
Texas
weird
Chainsaw
seizure.
Massacre.
Yeah,
With the grandfather.
Is that the same woman? No.
She goes in there, tosses her salad, gives her a cigarette, and
literally tosses her salad.
Why does she make her?
She's like tossing her salad on her lap.
Why does she make her hold the bowl? Is she trying to be like, you're making dinner?
Maybe, yeah.
Probably.
Like, also,
but just dude, that look
salad
he gives
in a
him
sink, I guess that's
of just
normal.
staring at him. I'm like,
I prepared it while I baked.
and he just takes it. He just like sits there and like looks around, and I'm like, it made me uncomfortable. And that's like a fucking minute. That you're just
that was
on
when I was
them
texting. I was like,
that.
I was
I'm
like, these people
dude.
are fucked. I was like, what am I watching? Like, this is the weirdest family.
And then the other thing too, this always, since the first time I watched it, always fucking grosses me out. And it's when she's rubbing her eyes.
Oh, and it's just making that noise. I'm like,
oh my god!
I was like,
that
ew,
so
dude.
gross.
Yeah, that was like the most fucked up thing ever. Because it's like, you ever know when, like, I hate rubbing my eyes because it just like, it makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't like it.
That noise.
Well, I mean,
like
who
that,
likes rubbing them?
Yeah, like you're rubbing way too deep and way too hard.
It's like,
in your
Jesus
eyeballs.
Christ. Well,
You're
but you ever see
pop
people when they do that? When they
Yeah.
like really go
No, it's
nuts?
like you're
I'm
gonna
like,
pop it.
Jesus, dude. Like, I'm like, you're gonna like have a rash.
You're
Like
gonna pop
you're
your-
yeah.
you're gonna pop your
Like if
inky
I
ojos.
rub my eyes too much, dude, my eyes get like swollen. Like they get like
sensory
fucked up,
discretion.
dude.
Stop it.
So I'm like, oh, don't do that. So like that
gross.
always fucked me up.
Which family would you rather dine with? I'm going to go cross horror movies here. The
say the
family
Texas
from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the family from Eraserhead?
Eraserhead.
Eraserhead, because at least I know I'm
yeah,
not going to
I'm not the meal, dude.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
same.
cool.
So
But-
that guy Jack Fisk. That I was talking about.
Yeah, the
He's actually a
clever
big.
guy.
He was like actually a very big art director. Married to Sissy Spacek, by the way, which I didn't
Ooh,
know.
fun fact.
He got a Academy Award for Best Art Direction or Production for The Revenant and for There Will Be Blood.
Wow.
So that guy, a couple bangers out there. He did a bunch of David Lynch movies and who was the other guy? Some guy similar to him. What was his fuck's name?
Nice
It's Terry
work, buddy.
something. Yeah, I was like, that guy's actually like pretty. So when he says what his
Pretty
theory
hot.
was, I was like, well, you might know a thing or two. Granted, his take was very short, and it also involved his character, so maybe he has inflated.
Yeah, let's see.
ego
Worked
about
on
himself.
Carrie, Eraserhead, Thin Red Line, Mulholland Drive. Yep, another David Lynch movie there. Water for Elephants, a misstep, I would say. The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick movie. A lot of people hold that in high regard. Revenant, and the upcoming Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Scorsese.
Oh yeah,
movie.
that's gonna be a
That's
banger.
I
too.
can't wait to see that. Apparently, it's like 3.5 hours long.
Yep.
Speaking of bangers, we need to
Oppenheimer's,
pre-buy
gonna be
we
a
need to
banger, too.
pre-buy tickets for that because I need to see that. In
That's a
I'll see.
3-hour R-rated banger.
So it is rated.
Literally
It is,
banger.
so
You're not invited to that.
it is rated R, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right,
officially.
so an R-rated Christopher Nolan movie, I'm in. Absolutely.
100%.
I'll go see that with you guys.
3 hours?
About the
Dude,
guy
I'll be
that
on
created
the
the
edge of my
atomic
seat.
bomb. Yeah, I'm in.
Yep. Let's
I
see.
am death.
And they recreated-
Destroyer of worlds. Fields.
Essentially the atomic bomb.
So David Lynch made Eraserhead, by the way, for $100,000 in 1977 dollars. And it grossed $7.1 million in 1977
Pretty good,
dollars.
I'd say.
Yeah, pretty good. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I thought this was pretty interesting here. So Lynch previously studied as a painter, which he has a lot of paintings out there. Like you can buy David Lynch paintings. And apparently he based this story from Eraserhead on like stories that he had read by Franz Kafka and Nikolai Gogol. I have no idea how you pronounce the names.
Google.
Yeah, Google. Yeah, absolutely. You want me to Google Gogol? Is that what you want me to say?
Google.
So yeah, there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of old school, very high art writing at play here.
I will also tell you too. There was one scene in that movie that I feel like under the skin, like the sex scene in this movie with the woman that lives in the fucking.
Oh, and they melt into the bed.
Yeah, that was like under the skin all day. Like under the skin.
I also thought of vibes during this movie as well.
For some reason, that's why I got on the Alien train, because I was like, "The fuck am I watching?" And it kind of got me in that aspect.
It's funny how you said melt into the bed, because I was just like, why are they having sex in water? Like, I was like, I don't get it. Like, what the
She did say that to me. She was like, are they having sex in water?
Well, that was one of the fucked up parts.
Doesn't
work. Where he sees her with that other guy, and then the baby's like laughing at him.
Yes, I love that.
The baby cackling.
We both were laughing at that.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
That was awesome. And then of course,
I'm like that. I'm like sitting here. And I'm just like,
also, which
it's so disturbing.
When that happens, he cuts off the bandages, and the baby, like the head, just.
I thought those were bandages, but was that the baby's body?
That was the baby's body.
Yeah, it was holding.
Yeah, I was like,
together.
are those the band? And it was like, oh my god.
I thought that was like the baby was meant to have no skin, and like the bandages were holding the body.
Apparently, that's probably what it was.
Yeah, and it's all guts.
When he cut it open, it opened.
And then all that shit that comes.
Didn't he
like he stabbed the thing? It's like
fucking,
comes all like all starts like expanding.
It was almost like that expandable foam.
And then the baby's head gets gigantic, and that whatever they used for it, a puppet or something else like that, was awesome. Again,
it was a lot.
1977, incredible. Yeah. Better than any CGI you'll see. Unbelievable, this movie. Yeah. In terms of the way it's shot, the cinematography, the effects, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Too good.
You want to compare it to some other 1977
Hard to
horror
compare
movies?
that movie to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a lot here. I mean, Matt, you're looking at this with me. If you see anything that you want to talk about or mention, please do. Let's see. I have.
Pretty better than last week's.
Yeah, he's making it to the end.
Oh, Exorcist 2: The Heretic.
Exorcist 2: The Heretic.
Thank
you for commenting. Andrew.
3's way better.
Hills Have Eyes.
Hills Have Eyes.
I said your comparison list is much better.
I love the Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, the original Wes Craven one.
I also love House, a.k.a. House.
Yeah.
The Incredible Melting Man, directed by William Sachs.
That's a fantastic fucking movie.
Yep. Let's see. Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner.
I might watch that, actually.
Orca,
terrible
the
movie.
Killer Whale.
Ooh, I almost watched that one time.
Richard Harris.
Don't?
Oh, okay. I don't have more. The Possessed.
Ooh, Rabid.
Prey.
That's Cronenberg's
Yep, Rabid
first
Cronenberg movie. Return to Boggy Creek. I've heard of that movie before. That's a Bigfoot movie, which I really like a lot.
Bigfoot.
The Sentinel.
I love that movie.
Yep, that's a good
wild fucking movie.
Yep, that's a good one. Let's see. Shockwave, Spectre, The Spell.
Fun fact, The Sentinel was the first movie I bought on Blu-ray when I decided to reprise my collection.
I feel like I've seen that movie before, or I'm thinking of something else.
Okay.
Sentinel with an S?
Mm-hmm. With an S. I've seen that one. Matthew, Suspiria by Dario Argento.
Suspiria with an S?
Yep. With an S. And then, Tentacles. Tintoera, The Uncanny, Watch Me When I Kill, and Whiskey Mountain.
Tintonera, I believe, is a Spanish alligator movie.
Yeah, that's a horror movie.
I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad year for horror. I'm saying it's a year for horror that I haven't seen a lot of the movies, aside from the popular ones. So I can't really comment too much. But, I mean, this movie has to be right the fuck up there, I would think.
Top 5.
Hills Have Eyes and
I remembered my other movie.
What was it?
Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now. There's so many movies that
It
sound
was another
like that.
70s movie.
Okay.
Yeah, 1972, Donald Sutherland.
Donald
Fantastic fucking movie.
That guy looks like a
Also
dog.
a Criterion Collection.
Very weird.
A dog.
No, it's
Donald
pretty
Sutherland
straightforward.
looks like
It's kind of weird,
a big,
but it's
like Saint.
it's
He looks like a dog.
like
He's
upsetting.
dog
Like
face.
it's a sad movie.
Tell me he doesn't look like a dog.
All right. Guys, what else we got on Eraserhead or anything else adjacent to Eraserhead? Catherine, any thoughts you want to share? I feel like you haven't shared many things in a little bit.
Tell me that guy doesn't look like a dog.
I mean, he doesn't look like a dog. Sure,
He's a great actor.
It's Kiefer's dad.
Yeah, yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland sucks.
No, he doesn't.
No, that's all.
24 was a dope show.
Fuck
That was
that
on my
show.
notes.
It's 24.
Andrew.
I watched network television.
It was like 10.
It was like 10.
Network television.
Talking about 24.
Oh. 24.
Well, I wasn't 10, so yeah, I didn't like it.
48 hours.
What were you
60
asking?
minutes.
Any further comments on
He almost
Eraserhead?
Definitely watch it.
It's a joke.
I think I need to watch it a second time.
I think
Knowing now what I know from that synopsis, that makes a lot of sense. So I feel like I'd
you
like
were
it more.
close.
It was close, just
You were
alien,
close.
just alien. But it definitely had a weirder meaning to me because I watch things and I'm like, this is weird, so there's something weird about it. But it was, I don't know how I didn't pick up on that. Like, that should have been so fucking obvious.
Well, it was funny because when, like, the first time I watched it, I was like, dude, this movie is just, like, fucking miserable. Like, where the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
And then I'd watch it again, and I watched it a third time, and finally I, like, looked up the actual, like, I read through the synopsis, and it had this, like, secondary part that was, like, alternate.
Can we get that person on the
option.
podcast?
Yeah.
Just talk
Well,
to
it
them.
was just, like, and it made so much sense. Like I said, like, that's not definite, but it's, like, I like
makes
watching
a lot
it
of
knowing
sense.
that that's an option, I guess. But,
It makes more sense than what you're left to believe.
well, that it's just
Well, also you have that
straightforward,
weird woman dancing with the fucking huge fucking.
But that's
lady in
got
the
its own
radiator,
hallucination.
Yeah, but or does she have? But she clearly has. Like, you wouldn't just dream of that woman unless she has radiation. She has some sort of jowls.
Maybe
caused
you
by
would.
the
Yeah,
radiation.
never
but, like,
know.
that's the thing is that she doesn't even exist. It's a dream.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
So-
Very strange movie.
I don't know what the fuck.
One more thing I wanted to mention before we sign off on this. So basically, this Eraserhead was released as like a midnight movie, you know, only shown in certain theaters, very much an indie movie. It impressed, though, a bunch of major Hollywood directors, which is why it's now in like the American Film Institute as a, you know, a relic of, you know, excellent movie making or whatever the fucking title is they call that there. John Waters, Stanley Kubrick reportedly said it was one of his favorite movies. Okay. One of the films that he made the cast and crew of The Shining watch to get them into the mindset and the mood of the movie he wanted to make with The Shining.
Wow.
I thought that was really cool because I feel like when you watch, when you think about this movie in that context, right? The Shining has like a lot of background, like weird ambient noise, like type thing. I feel like he's doing a lot of weird things to make you feel unsettled, while not trying to give you jump scares and
not
overtly
in
like
your face,
scare you.
Yeah.
It's a very cerebral horror movie, which I hate to say because it sounds pretentious and douchey, but like when you think about it, it's right. It's you can see it. You
It's
can
a
absolutely see
deeper
it.
fear of just shit.
Yep. So Mel Brooks saw this movie. Mel Brooks of Young Frankenstein and
Love Mel Brooks.
Dracula, Dead Loving It, Blazing Saddles.
Producers.
Yep, producers. Spaceballs. Oh,
Ghost Trace the World Part 1.
actually saw
And
this
2.
movie and was the one to offer the directing part to Lynch for The Elephant Man.
Interesting.
Kind of wild, right? And then last but certainly not least, apparently, George Lucas actually asked David Lynch to direct Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi, and Lynch turned it down.
Good for him.
Right? That means
Don't
that was...
Bad for him.
motherfucker.
Return of the
Wait.
Jedi, though?
Yeah.
Wait, no, wait,
He would have
no.
made the weirdest Return of the Jedi, though.
What? Yeah, this has like the Roman numerals incorrect because it does say
Episode 4.
It does say Return of the Jedi, but the Roman numerals are episode 6, which is not correct.
No, it is
So-
6 because it's A New Hope. Oh, Return of the Jedi 6.
No, you don't know. You're right.
You
I
have
forgot
Last
about the
Hope.
prequel series. Oh,
Yeah, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
That prequel series stinks. So yeah.
No.
Wow. Wait. Return of the Jedi. Holy shit. Interesting.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to make that movie?
Man. Well, I mean, Dune wasn't that great.
Yeah.
His Dune sucked. The new Dune.
I don't know if
way
that was
better.
his fault though. I really don't know if that was his fault. But
Well, he was in charge, so he fucked it up.
yeah,
Dune seems boring.
The new Dune, so good, and it's extremely well acted. If you like,
Haven't seen it.
just straight up sci-fi like fantasies, yes. No,
I do not.
How are the sandworms in it though? Any good?
pretty sweet.
How hot were they?
All right.
They had,
How hot? How hot was
Tell me
it?
about the worms.
Tell me about the worm.
They had
I wasn't even thinking about that, and then
They had
realized
six.
total
They had
cell phone.
6 different throats.
What?
6 throats, Mikey?
Dude, could you imagine how
Oh my
far?
god, he's getting so excited.
Dude, each inch could go so much further than the last.
Tell me more about the worms.
6 throats.
6 throats. A 6-throated
6 throatsies.
That's the new species they found in the Amazon. 6-throated worms.
My God.
You hear that, Mikey? 6 throats.
Well, guys, I have to say, as a lover of worms, I need to go sign off and have some time to myself to think about this.
Go find the 6-throated worm.
Yeah, go find the 6-throated worm. Exactly.
Sounds scary. I'm actually scared of that creature.
Guys, anything else on Eraserhead before we put a bow on this bitch?
I will
Now,
say
2 thumbs up for this movie now.
I will
Yeah?
say
I've gone from I hated this movie to now
Listen,
I like
look
this
at
movie.
you evolving as a
changed in,
human
like,
during a
moments. Yeah.
podcast. Look at you.
I will say, if you're any sort of horror fan and you haven't seen this, I think it's mandatory viewing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so.
At least once. If you don't like it, it's understandable, but I think you have to experience the movie front to back. Turn your fucking phone off.
Yeah.
Turn your lights off. Sit in a nice dark room and just enjoy it.
Melt into
And
it.
then let
Yeah,
it
literally melt
and
into
just
it.
let it stew. It's got to stew.
Yeah.
You got to stew. Like that's why I like our book club because we get to talk about the type of things. So.
See? It is book club.
Book club. Book club for losers. No, I'm just kidding. We're not losers.
Well.
We're not
We don't
losers.
believe
you
I mean, I'm a loser.
We're not losers. If you think we're losers,
Look
fuck
at you
you.
two gallivanting together, joining opinions and laughing in Michael's face. How about that, huh? Oh,
I thought this was America.
oh, this is America.
I mean,
She laughs in your face regardless.
That's
When
true.
I smile.
That's
I was trying not to laugh during the 6th throat bit, but
good stuff. Good stuff.
That was, I
right.
couldn't resist that.
Hear
That
that,
was
Mike?
good.
We good? Everybody good? Everybody good?
Dead things, Mikey.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this episode and you're looking for episodes from us, you can find us on the following podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever else you may find your podcast. My name is Mike. I've been joined by Andrew, Kat, and Matt. Lady, gentlemen, good evening. Thanks so much.
Good evening.
Peace.
Adios.
Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.